Okay, we're about to delve into the next edition of the Horseman's Voice. We got a driver trainer out east. Frankie, you there?
Oh, yeah. How's it going?
Oh, man, I haven't seen that smile and that face in a long time. What was your, first introduction to the Horseman's Voice back in the day?
Oh, man, I probably met you right around when I went into high school, maybe 2002, 2003.
All right, well, you're a father now? I mean, last time I talked to Boomer, he said you're a dad. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a son that was about 2.5 years old.
Okay, so what generation, are you, and what generation is your son going to be?
I would be third generation. Both my sides of the family. My mom was in it. Her dad was in it. My dad, and then his father. So yeah, I'd be third generation. I'd be fourth generation.
Wow. So obviously your mom was on the circuit with barrel racing. We all know Angie. And what about on your father's side and Joe Marsh Jr.? I mean, what type of influence? Let's start with your grandfather, Joe.
Oh yeah, he was an incredible horseman. I learned a lot from him in the limited time that I did get to be around him and experience the stuff in the barn and whatnot. But yeah, top of the line right there. He taught my dad everything he knows. Pretty much, he did all the driving. My grandfather Joe did training. He had run the stable, classified them, did all that, kept it going, took care of everything else. So he did good.
Looking at this shot here of you, obviously in your colors, how did you come about with your colors? Because we can see your dad and your grandpa here.
Yeah, the polka dots are it's the Marsh tradition. They had that. My last name is Affrunti, so I have my mother's last name. And I took my dad's colors, got those when I started driving and training, registered those as my own.
What's this, like an eagle or something? Or what's this on the top of your helmet? Is that a Trans Am's logo or something?
Yeah, it's my Uncle Bobby, my dad's brother, Robert Marsh. He got real good at painting. And he painted my dad's helmet, and the first one that he painted for him had a Trans Am logo, and it kind of just stuck. So every helmet I've ever got painted since then, you get a Trans Am put right on the front, a little Firebird.
So your history basically was, growing up Balmoral and Maywood. We've got a couple winter circle pictures here. You want to talk about some of the horses that you were able to drive. Is one of these your first win?
One of these isn't my first wins. I can give you more next time. This was the one I have. It's a picture of Rich's Nestor. I actually trained this horse. He was my first win, just not in this picture. But yeah, it was there at Maywood. I think it was 2014. Got my first driving win there.
What about this one here at Balmoral?
The one at Balmoral, that was actually my first trotting win.
Okay.
For Trenton Watson. When I worked for him, he was based out of Southern Illinois, down there in Fairfield. And yeah, that was my first trotting win. She was a chocolatier mare.
So, what about just growing up on the backside and being around racing your whole life? It's obviously in your blood. What are the day-to-day things you're doing on the racetrack?
Oh, it's a 7-day-a-week job when you're racing horses or taking care of any horses. No matter what you do, I was in and out of it a couple times, going through high school, out of high school. I've done different things. And I always come back to it. It's just what I was born and bred to do, I guess. But you're taking care of the horses. It's they can't feed themselves, they can't water themselves, and they can't clean their own stalls. So you're always doing something. There's no holidays.
So where are you based at, I guess, these days? I mean, who are you working with or training with? Where are you based at?
This is my third year working as a second trainer for George Ducharme. He's a big trainer out east, and we have a nice stable that we stable out of Vernon Downs right now out there in Central New York. And we come down for the wintertime after we finish all the stakes races in the Grand Circuit, come down to Spring Garden Ranch in Central Florida. So we're down here at the ranch right now.
Oh, so you're down at Spring Ranch right now?
Yep.
You're enjoying the sun down in Florida?
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, man. Man. Yeah, we were able to actually speak in our first edition with Luttrell. I'm sure you know Luttrell Dean, and he said he's on his way down right now with,
Tyler Sheehan.
Yeah, with Tyler and his wife Marna, and I guess Tyler's got something in this past Thursday. You can check the results at Pompano. So I guess after he races on Thursday, he's turning around, picking up Luttrell, and coming back down. What types of things were you guys doing? You're a little bit further than those guys where they're based in Kentucky. You know, what's it like preparing, I guess, getting everything together, and I guess that big drive down to Florida?
Getting towards the end of the year, you kind of start to prepare for it. You look forward towards. When you're running up and down the road, racing constantly, you really don't have a whole lot of time to think or prepare. I mean, you have incredible barn staff that we work with. I'm fortunate enough to be with somebody that runs a barn excellent here, so you don't have too much to worry about. But when you get towards the end of the year and the stakes start to wind down, you go through everything, organize the stuff, get the bits ready, set up bridles and harnesses for when you're breaking. The next lot that comes in, like this year, we have 22 incredible horses. We're going to have an amazing year, I believe. And
so they all yearlings? I mean, going into 2-year-old season, you still have some 3-year-olds. What does the stable currently consist of?
The last couple of years, we've had about 45 to 50 horses.
Wow.
This year, 22 babies, so 22 yearlings that are going to be 2-year-olds, and about 18 to 23-year-olds, so 2-year-olds that are turning 3 that are be coming back for the sophomore season. And we bring back the ones that have done good, had good 2-year-old seasons or whatever. They're promising going to be 3-year-olds, so bring back some powerhouses, I think.
Is there any specific horse that George likes to train that you're being second trainer for? I mean, is he more of a pacing guy or a trotting guy, or?
He's more of a trotting guy. He won the Hambletonian with Royalty for Life.
Of course.
13.
Yep.
And, we still have one of the horses that we raced in the Hambo a couple years ago, Wings of Royalty. He's a 8-year-old now. He still go out there, races in the open, loves his job, does it. But I was fortunate enough to be able to sit behind I got the break 2 years ago when I started with George. Really nice horses. One raced in the Hambo Oaks this year, and one raced in the Hambletonian. So that was pretty incredible, to be able to see 2 horses that I broke racing those big races.
So we've got this image here of you. I guess you said it was at Lexington, outside of a shed row. Can you explain to people, being multi-generational, what is a typical day with you, waking up in the morning until you go to bed? What are the types of things that you're doing day to day with the horses?
Well, like I said, it's a 7-day-a-week job, so even me being a second trainer, I don't have to do, say, the grooming or whatever that other ones do, but I'm up, early every morning, usually at the barn. When it's, during the race season, you're at the barn by 5:30, 6 o'clock latest, on the daily basis going. And then you could be up, to, depending on where you're shipping to. Like, we're in Vernon, so we ship, you got to go to Yonkers. That's 4 hours. You get stuck in the last race there, Yonkers, and you got to come back. You're getting home at 3, 4 in the morning, get a little bit of sleep, and come right to the barn and go again.
Wow. So when you head out in the track at 5:30, 6 o'clock, the sun's coming up, the air's crisp, it's nice and quiet, then what do? They prep the horses for you, and you're just out there just jogging and doing training miles when you can?
The grooms do an incredible job. They take care of the animals like they're their own. It's like a child. They bring them, we go through the motions depending on what sets or what, regimen for the horses that day. Some are training, some are jogging, some get turned out before they jog, depending on if the horse is tying up or the different aspects of each horse. I mean, they're not just a number in these barns. Each one's individualized and taken care of.
So 6 o'clock, and then you go till, 12, 1 o'clock, and then take a break and come back if you're shipping out to Vernon?
Yeah, we'll be at Vernon, but depending on where you're going, you have to leave for the different paddock times or whatever. But yeah, you're at the barn 5:30 to 6 every day. And down here, it's a little bit more lax at the beginning of the year just because you get the babies and stuff. So you get there 6:30. You get a little extra half an hour of sleep or something, but that's not bad. You get in the routine of it, but you're going, from about 5:30 every morning to, say, noon. 1 o'clock, depending on how much. You can go later. We're on the track later sometimes.
And then what's the difference now, I guess, being down in Florida? What are your days consisting of? Again, what time do you wake up and what time are you finished?
About the same time. I'm up every morning about 4:45.
Wow.
You actually wake up. get up, go through, get some coffee and get down to the barn, take all the temperatures, go through the routine, and you're done, latest around 1 down here in Florida. So it's not bad. And you got the afternoons to go golfing or whatever your pastimes are.
The good life. Well, there's a lot of Illinois horsemen down there that I'm sure you're hanging out with, seeing at Spring Ranch and the other tracks and what have you. Is there anybody you want to give a special shout out to that have given you a shot in the industry, or any family, anybody you want to say hello to?
Yeah, it was an incredible learning from my father, Ronnie Marsh, and my mom, Frankie Affrunti. They're incredible horsemen themselves. I appreciate it. I've been lucky enough to be able to work for Nancy Tactor and some good guys, Dan Daly, and now a couple years for George Ducharme. Hopefully be able to get my foot in the door sooner than later and have my own stable, become a powerhouse.
There you go. Frankie Affrunti. How can we get in touch with you, Frankie?
Anytime. Email, call.
All right. Well, you can look for him on Facebook, social media. He's down in Florida now. If you're looking for him, working on that tan. It was great talking with you, Frankie.
All right, sounds good.
All right. We're with Ryan Macedonio, internationally known, currently working with the Breeders' Crown. What exactly are you doing these days, Ryan?
Right now I am doing everything digital with the Breeders' Crown. So I've redone their website. I try to do basically organize every article, picture, videos, any content that is directed through the Breeders' Crown and Hambletonian Society. I try to funnel through the website and our social media. So I got a lot of stuff to deal with, and also too, the people don't know the Hambletonian Society services 130 other races like the Yonkers Trot, the recent Matron. So all of those things too, I have to organize and just try to get it out there, because it really hasn't been done before. So any other race that we service, I'm just trying to get it out there and promote it.
So we'll get into the Grand Circuit in a little bit, but let's talk about you. Let's talk about your history. How did you get involved in the business? As a child, are you second or possibly third generation?
Fifth, actually.
Wow.
Third generation. Yeah.
Wow.
So on both sides, my mom and dad. So my dad's side, quick, was all horses, training, breeding, things like that. And then my mom's side was kind of the administrative side, from race secretaries to announcers to pedigrees to, and anything on the inside building. And that's how my mom and dad met. She was in mutuals. My dad was a driver. And
but we can go back to grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-great-grandparents?
Yeah. Maine roots all the way up there. And, trainer-driver on that side. And, again, race secretary and announcers and publicity directors and all that fun stuff.
Wow.
So I've got it all.
I'm third generation. We were talking before the interview. You're seriously fifth generation. It's really in your blood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about, what you've been doing in the industry and how you've progressed in the industry into the position you're in today. You want to talk now about the Grand Circuit and who you've met over the years and, what you're up to?
Well, yeah, working with the Hambletonian Society, I started doing my own media. I created a website and things like that, and I was just doing interviews because I felt like there really wasn't much of that. And I thought I could do, I just wanted to do it and have some fun. And I started interviewing people. And then Moira Fanning from the Hambletonian Society, she kind of became a super fan. I mean, why would she not, obviously? And she gave me an opportunity to just start interviewing random people. I think it was Meadowlands Pace 2014, I want to say.
Yeah. And so Moira and Tom, and now currently, obviously, JC, Mr. John Campbell himself.
Yes.
What other types of people are you meeting when you're interviewing, and what types of horses are you meeting?
Well, now I just do primarily the Hambletonian and Breeders' Crown, my own content. So it's my job to anybody that's in the races. So it's kind of, as me growing up in the industry, you kind of idolize somebody like John Campbell, and then now I'm working with him. And then I get to go and interview guys like Jimmy Tactor.
Oh, yeah.
And I know he's retired now, but, it's like I can get his phone number and call him up and ask for an interview, and he's going to do it.
We're looking at this shot right here, you interviewing Jimmy. He's looking at Purr. What's going on in this shot, man?
Well, that's just the disgust of everybody every time I've interviewed. But no, see, actually, that was a screen cap from one of my interviews, and that's the fun part of a screen cap is right after that I told the joke, and both Pear and Jimmy just were laughing. But it's right before they started laughing when Jimmy gave me the look, and Pear, kind of is like, it looks like they're both just disgusted with me. But that was a good time. I like both Jimmy and Pear, and they've been great over the years. If I need an interview, and I generally try not to bug people too much, because as a media guy, you can be a little bit annoying, I guess. You're always like, I need this, I need that. So generally when I try to interview somebody, if I'm asking them, it's for a purpose, and I think that most people understand that, like trainers and drivers. So I usually don't get any no's when I ask for an interview.
So, looking at you, big brothers, big sisters of America, most people might not know what you've done with Trotcast. How is it, working with not-for-profits and promoting not-for-profits in the industry, lining them up with drivers and trainers and getting the word out for either, not-for-profits in the industry or national ones in scope?
Well, yeah, I also started Trotting for Charity a couple of years ago, which was basically, hey, I'm going to make a jersey, and we're going to raffle it off, and all your proceeds go to that charity. And, I always felt like charity was an easy way to do promotions because people love charity, and charities promote the people that they're partners with. So, yeah, I just started that, and total we've raised over $27,000 for charity. And this year, I didn't do it because just as we were getting set to kind of do the auction and raffles, COVID hit. So I didn't really feel like it was a big deal to, hey, everybody's, in this virus, let's do a charity auction. I just didn't really feel that was right. So we'll get back to that in April and March. I have 30 jerseys just sitting here for next year, and hopefully we'll get a couple more. But that was another thing. I've always volunteered and done a lot of work with kids, so that's just always been something that's been important to me.
What about this next one? You've got is this a GoPro you're putting on a horse here? That face looks familiar. Is that who I think it is?
That's foiled again.
It is.
Part of my media gig is just trying to figure out ways to get new angles, new things, and we did that. That was his 100th victory up in Maine. And, put the GoPro on, and it's still probably, I think, top 1 or top 2 videos most viewed of mine. I think it had over about 25,000 views.
Wow.
Full views, not this BS 3-second views that people like to shove in your face of, it got 1 million views. It's like, no, 25,000 2-minute views of the race, which I know may be a lot, maybe a little, but for our industry, that is probably massive.
What about this next one? We got a couple characters here. I see the guy on the left, but who's this horse in the middle? He looks like he's meditating.
The only horse that's probably bigger than Foiled Again, and that's Bold Eagle.
Wow.
I went to the Prix d'Amérique in 2017 to watch that horse race, and unbelievable how he won, and luckily he was. They brought him to the 2019 British Crown, and he was imported. So he had to do quarantine up at Mohawk, and he was stabled there for 2 weeks. And us working there, we got to work with Bold Eagle a lot because he was the only horse in the grounds.
Okay, so the guy on the left, we all know. I mean, come on.
That's Chris. Yeah, that's Chris Tully.
Who's the guy in the middle?
That's his caretaker.
Okay.
It's in French. It's pronounced Hugues Montu.
Okay.
And, but we call him Hugh. We're Americans, so. But he was so great to work with, and Sebastian and Pierre and the whole Bold Eagle crew was just unbelievable to work with, and so easy. They understand media, so for our job, it was easy. He was another horse I put a GoPro on for the Breeders' Crown.
Nice. So let's go back to the Breeders' Crown. We got you sitting here in a little John Deere tractor. It looks like the infield at Hoosier Park.
Yeah, that was this year. The way that their setup was, I'm just putting GoPros on everything. The gates, the horses, the infield, and luckily enough, Hoosier was great enough to give me one of their gators to just be running around all over the place. So that was me just going crazy, driving around, putting GoPros on everything, trying to make the replays and the production as good as we can, trying to get different angles. And I produced 12 championship replays, and I think that they're top notch. I'll put them up against anything in our sport and other sports.
Do you see, like with the consolidation, I guess, with the casinos, working with this new team? I don't want to bring up the name Gabe Prewitt, but Gabe's making some big changes in the industry. Did you see a difference with the way that the team interacted to you, this year in comparison with previous years at Hoosier Park?
I would say in 17 in Hoosier to this year, there was no difference because they want to put on a good product. So I say they're top notch. I want to work with them, plain and simple. They're easy to work with. The video guys, I did a whole thing with their video club, and Ryan Clendenin and the whole crew there. They just want to make the product look good. So when you have that start, you're really working at the top. I don't know how the transition with Gabe has been, but I would imagine that it's only going to get better.
Well, they're saying that the handle down at Pompano is starting to increase. The product down at Pompano is starting to get better. Do you see yourself maybe flying down to Pompano for like a night of champions or like a super night, or maybe going out to Harris Chester and covering like the bigger events?
I mean, that's always a possibility. I can't say one way or the other. I would say my main focus is anything Hambletonian Breeders' Crown related. So, I'm trying to set the bar, and I think the Hambletonian and Breeders' Crown is setting the bar. And if others want to join the bar, then you got to ride with us. So,
well, let's just try to tie everything up now. Is there anybody out there, obviously besides your super fan, your mom, who we all know, is there anybody out there that you want to give a shout out and thank? Anybody that's given you a break over the years?
I mean, it's probably just Moira, because she's the one who started this whole crazy ride, and we've got a great relationship, and she lets me do what I want, and I think it's worked. Some stuff probably is a swing and a miss, but as a person who creates content, you're not going to hit a home run all the time, and I try different things. I'd rather try something new and it just flop on its face versus never try anything new. So
yeah, you're talking about Moira Fanning. I can't say anything. I completely agree with you. I mean, she gave me a big break back in the day with the Hambletonian. Shout out for Moira. And anybody else out there, you want to give a shout out before we close things up?
No. I think that's. I mean, listen, I don't even want to shout out Moira because people know, like, if people have a relationship with me, they know they have a relationship with me, and they don't need a shout out. So I'm the other way too. If I was on the other end, I wouldn't want anybody to shout out or give me awards or anything like that. People know you have a relationship with somebody, and they know it, vice versa. So I kind of feel the same way about shout outs and things like that. I'm not really one to shout out people or give congratulations because they already know it.
Exactly. Well, in this industry, mentorship is very key. Where can we find you out on social media? We've got Trotcast. You're working with the Hambletonian Society. Where can we find you? How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything is Trotcast on Facebook. Instagram for our Hambletonian and Breeders' Crown stuff. Our website, Hambletonian.com. Anything that is digitally produced through Hambletonian Breeders' Crown, I've probably got my hand on it. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, then, I mean, that's media nowadays. Not everybody's going to like it, but I can't really drive my thoughts and processes on the people that don't like it. So I disable my comments, so you can't send me hate mail if that's what you want to do, because you get blocked.
Exactly. Well, we have to end up here, Ryan. We could probably talk for hours like we did earlier. We appreciate your time. That you've heard it here directly. Ryan Macedonio, the man behind the lens. All the best, man.
Thank you.
All right. We're with Bob Pandolfo out east, a Jets fan. We're in Chicago here. We're Bears fans. What's your take, I guess, on the industry currently, Bob?
I think it's hanging in there pretty good considering what a bad year this started out as. But fortunately, they got the tracks going again. Overall, the long-term picture of harness racing is there could be a lot of trouble going forward. Could be a lot of tracks closing, but we'll see what happens. A lot of it depends on the politicians and whether or not they're going to keep the slot dollars. And if you look at some of the graphics I showed here. First of all, let me go to give you a little background. The first time I went to the racetrack was at Roosevelt Raceway back in like 1971. And so the first great horse I saw, who was the second time I went to the track, was Albatross, the Stanley Dancer.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, he was a great 2-year-old, great 3-year-old. And my dad actually gave me $5 to bet on a horse called, I think it was Jake Lobel, and I was with my cousin. And Jake Lobel was a long shot. Albatross, was like 1 to 9, I think, or something like that. So Albatross comes on the track in the post parade. My cousin and I look at him, and he looked like a man amongst boys. So I said to my cousin, I think I'm going to book this bet, my dad. And my cousin says, yeah, like, look at this horse. He's like, he's got muscles coming out of his ears. So, Albatross went easy, of course. I never told my dad I kept his $5 on.
Well, you're known around the world as a handicapper. You've got your current book. It's called Trot Picks. But let's talk more of the grassroots. When you say looking at that horse, Jake Lobel, do you like to be more on track than more so looking at horses through a computer screen or on your phone?
Not anymore. I mean, I loved going to the track years ago. I used to bring binoculars, actually, for many years. But, it's just not necessary anymore. You have all these replays, you have better angles, you have high-definition TV. It's easier, actually, to bet online. At the track, you get distracted easily. Sometimes you get stuck on a line in front of, behind somebody. I mean, I love going to the track, but for betting purposes, it's actually better just to sit in front of your computer. And I can watch a lot of the races on television.
Well, what about breeding? I mean, everybody says that breeding is key. Can you look at a sire and then look at its progeny on the track and say, hey, that one looks like a Jake Lobel or like an Albatross, or, that one looks good on the track, or that one's bulked up. I mean, on the screen, what types of things are you looking for when you're making your selections?
Well, I mean, I use basic handicapping. As far as, pedigrees and things like that, none of that really means anything to me with harness racing, because I want to see the horses. Like when a 2-year-old comes out, I don't care how well-bred the horse is. I want to see how he's going to race. So because, a lot of well-bred horses just don't race well at all. They turn out to be, ordinary horses. So you really have to see the horse race and see how he looks, how much speed he has. But I'm a speed and class handicapper, so I'm looking to see, look for fast horses and then what class can they fit in, what class can they win, horses with speed.
Let's delve in now. You've sent us a couple images here, and let's talk about the difference, I guess, between, the infamous Frank Irvin with Brett Hanover. We've got an image here of this bike. Talk about, I guess, the bikes back in the day, and then if we can revert back, we've got an image we'll look at a little bit with the current bikes.
Yeah.
And how important the bikes are these days.
I'm a big stickler about this because the bikes, in fact, many people I'm sure I've read that I think the bikes have really hurt the sport. Brett Pelling, by the way, who's one of the greatest trainers in the history of harness racing, he's been saying this now for a while, and so have many other people, that the bikes are just terrible. And if you look at the two photos I showed, you see Brett Hanover with Frank Irvin. Frank's sitting very close to me. He can just reach out and touch the horse. And in the other picture with Trace Tetrick, with a modern day Stokey, Trace is far behind the horse, and then he's leaning far back, whereas Frank's sitting straight up. So this creates this huge distance of several extra feet between the driver and the horse. And when you extrapolate that out, that's the reason why, that's one of the main reasons why horses don't win from off the pace that much anymore, especially on the half-mile tracks and 5/8 tracks, because the horses in the back are like 20 or 30 feet further behind the leader, depending on how many horses are in the race. And I don't understand why the industry and the racetracks haven't corrected this. This is like one of the worst things. You don't have those 3-wide power brushes down the backstretch anymore. They used to have at Yonkers, for instance, and most tracks. The horses just can't do it anymore. And plus the races are fast. So if you have a 54 last half and a horse is 8-9 lengths behind, he's just not going to be able to, no matter how good the horse is, he's not going to be able to power brush down the backstretch and make up all that ground. So the whole thing is just so messed up. But, for some reason, no one's willing to change it.
What do you think about styling, they call it? You know, the way these guys lay back in the bike and they lay literally just perpendicular, you know, and parallel. You know, they're up perpendicular at the start of the race, and then once they get a little comfort lead coming up, let's say to the 3/8 or the half, you see them leaning all the way back. Like Timmy, when he's flying, you see at these 5/8 track, he's laying all the way back in the sulky. That gives him an advantage to the horse behind him. You know, what do you think about the styling? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it dangerous out there?
It seems to me that it would be more dangerous, but they seem to be able to handle. I don't know how they see where they're going half the time. But the thing is that it's just bad for the sport. It's bad for racing. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. In Australia, they're not allowed. If you look, even if you watch the same thing in Europe. In Europe, they all sit up straight. I mean, it's just common sense that if you have all the drivers leaning flat back, again, you create this huge distance. You know, people have kind of forgotten what a race is. Imagine if you did this in football, even in track and field. Say in the Olympics, you said, well, you can't run next to this, right in front of the other person. You have to run, 30 feet. Well, you have to have space in between. Sort of like what we're doing now with COVID, where you have 6 feet in between everybody.
Exactly.
That's basically, that's what we've done in harness racing. You have to have this distance, which is the exact opposite of what you want in a race. You want a closely matched, bunched field. You want the horses bunched so that horses can come from behind. But instead, we've strung them out.
So you're talking more like the European and Australian type of racing that we see all over the world. What do you think about the whip? The fact that whips are still used here, and there's lots of whipping violations. If you look up fines and regulations, but in Europe they don't use the whip. What's your thoughts on the whip?
I think the whips would be all right if the judges were more consistent. I mean, all you have to do is fine the drivers if they abuse the whip. And then, unfortunately, there's no consistency. There's no uniform racing rules. So if you have a track where you have good judges that are doing their job, you're not going to have the drivers abusing the whip because they're going to fine them really severely, or even suspend them. So I don't really like the idea of taking the whips away. I think that you have to control the horse if they want to make the whips a little bit less, where they don't really hurt the horse. But I think the whole thing's kind of exaggerated because most of the drivers don't hit the horse anymore. They just smack the side, the shaft.
Correct.
So they're just making noise. But it looks like they're hitting the horse. But the guys that used to hit the horse, like Chance and some of these guys really had a powerful right hand whip, and they could really get that little extra out of the horse by actually hitting the horse. But they don't see that much anymore. They're just hitting the shaft.
Well, I mean, back in the day, they'd hit the saddle pad. These days you just hear and I hear it on the track. You hear the ding, 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 where they're just tapping the side of the, let's say that metal pole to act as like, instead of, getting at them, they're doing ding, 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 just to scare them. And then what do you think about putting the whip underneath between their legs? They do that to kind of scare those colts and geldings out there.
Yeah, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. It doesn't look good. It's, that's a...
Well, let's talk real quick. We're running out of time for this week. Consistency. What do you think about this new national front that's happening with the government, things that are happening on the national, spectrum? Mitch McConnell passed something in the House. What do you see moving forward with that?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be approved, but it's a little sketchy now. With harness racing is trying to fight it. The United States Training Association, they don't want, so I don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if harness racing is trying to fight it because they want to show that, they want more control over their version of what goes into the bill, or if they just want to be out of the bill completely. But I don't see how they could be out of the bill. I mean, this bill is going to encompass, quarter horse racing, thoroughbred racing, harness racing. So,
exactly.
I guess they're just jockeying for position and trying to, create some sort of a situation where they can not pay that much money for each. That's the problem. That's what they're complaining about. You have to pay a certain amount of money in order to be involved in this for every horse that you put out,
exactly.
every horse that you start.
Yeah, people are
and
saying,
they want to bring that down.
yeah, people are saying that because of the consistency of the standardbreds racing more than the thoroughbreds, the standardbreds can race every week. So you're talking 4 entries in a month versus the thoroughbreds that race basically every 3 weeks or once a month, or let's say maybe 4 times in 3 or 4 months, where the standardbreds could be racing 9 to 12 times in those 4 months. So there's got to be some type of equilibrium here. But besides your father, is there anybody else you want to give a shout out in the industry that's propelled you into the position you are in today?
Years ago, there was a guy named Joe Conti who used to work for American Turf Monthly. He was like, I was sort of like a protege of his, and so that really helped me because he focused a lot on the last race, and I was putting too much emphasis on other things. So that really, I started to put more emphasis on recent form, and all of a sudden I got hot, and I was really a well-known handicapper in New York working for Sportside. I mean, I was picking a lot of long shots. I got a really good reputation, which is really what propelled me to have a good career. The other thing I want to mention, too, if you have a few minutes, we were talking about drivers. There's a driver now, Dexter Dunn, who's the leading driver in the sport.
Correct.
This is really an amazing story because, I've never seen it. This is one of the most amazing stories, I think, in the 40-some-odd years I've been following harness racing and reporting on it. Yeah, this driver comes over last year from Australia, and we heard he was the top driver there, But, the guy got out of the plane, walked into the Meadowlands, and was the best driver in North America.
Wait, are we talking about an Australian driver, or are we talking about a Kiwi? Dexter's a Kiwi. Dexter's from NZ. He's from actually New Zealand. He's not a convict like these guys in Australia. He's actually an import from the UK and areas around. But I know what you're saying. Him crashing and hitting the scene, top driver. Everybody trusts him. I mean, it's amazing. Well, we're out of time for this week, Pandy. So where can we find you online? We've got your book. I'm sure we can find on Amazon. It's called Trot Picks: Modern Harness Handicapping Methods. Where else can we find you?
Yeah, my websites, I have 2 websites, one for harness racing called trotpicks.com, and the other is handicappingwinners.com. And because if they just search Bob Pandolfo or Pandy, they'll see all my stuff.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. We'll look forward to speaking to you in the future, man. Thank you.